how do we want to start that?
I don't know, man. You brought it here. You're the doctor on this one, so what should you prescribe it? What should I start?
I mean,
what's the way we should go?
You gotta have your meat and your vegetables, so all right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we start with the gummy.
Right.
He's trying here. This will be in honor of Hot Rock Supergiant. This is what he does at the beginning of his show.
Okay.
He'll have gummies, and he'll hand everybody on the panel a gummy. He'll be like, all right,
Here we go.
we're all on the same page.
What do you think of that?
Yeah,
Not bad.
I don't really get any hint of cannabis,
Not at all. No, not at all.
and that's great. That's exactly what we're looking for.
My wife, when I first got into edibles, that was her biggest complaint, is she does not like the cannabis taste. And so there's a lot of people that don't like that. We have two other flavors. We have a pineapple guava and a raspberry sorbet, but that cherry sarsaparilla it hits good.
It does. I agree.
Oh, fire. You have a lighter? I just thought of that. You pause this.
All right.
There we go.
Yeah, so you would have think that would have definitely been something I would have came prepared with. Okay, so all right, so we got the Bubra, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's the thing. I don't know if you've ever watched Hot Rock Show, okay? But basically what Hot Rock Show is like a cannabis version of Adult Swim.
Okay.
Everybody sends in their videos, they send in their music, right? So like I said, we start the show, he gives us a gummy, whatever. So I kind of do my thing. Hey, Brandon Barberio, TCK, this and that. Kind of introduce myself. We talk about the Bubba for a second, He's got his segments, goes through his things. I mean, we keep smoking Bubba, and we keep smoking. I'm doing dabs with studio audiences, Darren, okay? And we just keep going, we're smoking. And at one point, all of a sudden the video stopped. And at one point, it turned into an interview. And I literally stopped, and I was like, I looked at it and was like, man, we got to stop. I was like, this turned into a talk show? Like, you got to play a video or something. I was like, this get bad. Like, we need to change this.
Kind of change up the vibe. So what did they think of the Bubba?
I mean, everybody has been really kind of blown away so far.
Okay.
Like I said, this is the one that was black and white. So check that out.
And then you grind it up, it just the flavors or that flavor, but the smell just completely changes.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. So now it's not like rotten fruit anymore. Now it's like this Jack Herrera Bubba Cut.
It's yummy fruit. Man, that is really good.
So
you said when you've been working on this for almost 2 years now, right?
Yeah. And that was just getting the strong mom of the Frosted Flake and making everything dominant, and here you go. All right, here we go. Literally just getting it to perfection. Breeder mom was a F12 when we started with it, and the cross pollens were a F4.
What is it? What is that? That's a rating scale, right?
Yeah. So it's so basically you can go by genotypes and phenotypes. There's a G scale and an F scale. Okay. The genotype is when you literally take the plant, you have a male and a female, you breed it, you bring it up, and then you have another male and you cross-pollinate that exact same plant with the plant that you were breeding. So you're just straightening out the genetics. You're strengthening it to bring it up to its next level. Bubba taught me the secret where every 2 weeks you could flip plants. And if you had a male, the females would produce bud, and then you could just hit them with the pollen because the male would already be there. And you would skip a generation. So every month you'd be like, and that's why it took a year. So it took me a year to get to F12.
Okay.
And then we cross-pollinated that with the Space Queen OG and the cookies. Okay. The funny thing is the Space Queen came out more dominant than the cookies blend is. But the reason behind that is because cookies is pretty much 60% Bubba Kush. So I can't, this sound like, in a way, it kind of sounds rude. Like, I can't bring something out of the cannabis that's already there,
Right.
if you will.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now I'm just, by me chucking pollen like this, I'm just cleaning up these genetics again. It's one of those things where you're just trying to clean it up to the best of your ability, the best you can. And I think the easiest way to do that now is with, it's really in tissue culture when it comes down to cannabis. That's really where it is.
What is tissue culture?
So tissue culture is the ability to preserve your genetics in hormone. Okay, so you can literally take, let's say I take a specific cut of the bubba, like the OG cut.
Yeah.
And what you do is you literally strip it down. So when you're done, it's the stem that's like maybe about 3-4 inches long. And you take a vial and you fill it with hormone. Then you put it in there. Same way that you would grow a clone, cap it, put it in its environment, and you leave it at a certain temperature with a certain amount of light. And what happens is, in its inert state, it literally cleans the actual plant. And it literally makes it harmonically perfect so that it doesn't have attributes of flaws in which you would keep skipping generations of genetics, like I said.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, you can do this to a point where you can get it so clean that you are basically creating the McDonald's of weed. You're literally just, it's literally 2 beef patties, a special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, on a sesame seed bun. Every time. It never changes. In a commercial sense, this is great. Because if you, as the consumer, are going to the dispensary looking for a specific strain medicinally,
right,
and it's the consistency is the same, you're going to win hands down every single time.
It's like people when they want their Bud Light, they know it's the same thing all the time.
There's a reason why McDonald's has served so many people, because everybody knows when they go through there that the medium fry tastes the same way every single time, just like a Big Mac or a quarter pounder or anything else. It's the consistency of it.
Yeah. That, by the way, that hit, that was great. That was straight to the front of my head. I really liked how that came on like that.
Oh, this is, we're just
right up there. That was beautiful.
We're just getting started.
Oh, I'm excited. There's something about a lot of cannabis that's sold in commercial dispensaries nowadays, and you just don't get the effects of what I just smoked right there.
Well, I think a lot of it is what we call in the industry shaken. Okay. So you got a lot of trimmers, and they're not doing it on purpose. You know, they're sitting there over this huge vat with the screen, and they're trimming, you know, and they're just trying to get their job done. But what they really don't realize is they're literally at a point of cleaning a good portion of that initial trichome up.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at a lot of the bud that I brought you here today, I mean, I trim it, but I don't get commercial, like really down and dirty with it, because my bud's tight, you know, like I know it is. It's just,
you actually have still long hairs and stuff on it though. You have a little bit of some of those tiny little bits of the leaf that's left on there, but it's covered in trichomes. Like, it reminds me when I got first started in cannabis, my first introduction was up in Northern California, up in the Trinity, outside of Redding, and was trimming. And we did not trim like the way that you see that commercially nowadays. Like, we took the time, you know. We had a quota that we had to meet, yes, but like we took the time and it looked like what you had. And to be honest, yeah, like this stuff, I always take me back. I always compare stuff nowadays to stuff of of years ago that was, you know, nothing special. It was just grown well. And it's something about the terpene content. It hits you differently. Definitely medicinal cannabis. When did you start, bro? We didn't get into that too much. That was something I wanted like when you got with Bubba Kush, right? And like to tell people, for those that like talk to us, how, I don't know, just tell your story. When did it start? What got you into growing cannabis? How did you even get to that where you joined up with them and you came on with them?
Yeah, that was. So I started when I was like 15 years old. My parents, my mom's Irish, my dad's Italian, and
Okay.
they're a really old world, and they just always kept a garden. And as a matter of fact, I grew cannabis so much that I actually taught myself how to breed on accident. Because
Wait, what do you mean breed on accident?
like I was just a kid, so I had no idea that cannabis was asexual. It could be male and female, and like, you know what I mean? Like I had no idea about any of that.
Okay.
So of course I grew a couple plants, and then I saw this weird plant, and I was like, back then you couldn't just get on the internet and be like, hey, I have this, so all of a sudden I'm like, by deduction, find some information. So you'd be like, oh, well, the plants that grow buds are females. And then, if you get other plants that grow pollen, those are males.
Mm-hmm.
And if you mix the two together, then they grow seeds, but then you get better weed. And I'm like, wait, better weed? Okay, all right. So I didn't really think anything of it. And it, it's the 90s. Like if you were smoking weed, you were picking seeds out of it. Like there was no, oh man, wow, we got this amazing, like crazy killer hydro, like high grade shit. And if you did, in the 90s, you were paying $60 an eighth for it in New York. Like it was, whoa, okay.
Was any of that primo stuff being grown out in New York?
Oh yeah. Oh, there was. It was
Hard to come by.
It was hard to come by. All right, so this is my, that's the popcorn Sutton. So this is the New York City's answer to all the West Coast stuff, because I got, getting those calls like, oh, it's New York guys got, so.
And that's where you're from, New York?
Yep.
East Coast? Okay. Where'd you grow up?
In Hamburg, right outside of Buffalo, in the suburbs, upstate, in Western New York.
I lived in Army brat. My dad we were stationed at Fort Drum for years, Watertown. But
so
anyway, so 15 is when you
really kind of just,
where were you growing it at?
Right in my backyard.
Right in your garden?
Just win with the tomato plants and like everything. And
that was probably beneficial though, right? Because I've heard, that I've even seen other plants around their cannabis plants, and
until, there's always got to be that one, right? My mom's, one of her friends come over, they're having drinks on the patio, and she looks at my mother and she's like, Colleen, I got to tell you, those are some amazing cannabis plants you got. And my mother just looked at her and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Those are my tomato plants. And she's like, no, those are not tomatoes. She's like, tomatoes don't look like that. And she's like, but they're growing tomatoes. And she's like, no. She's like, the grower's just really good at, winding the two plants together to make it look like one. So, of course, I wasn't even there. And my mom calls me at my friend's house. Okay, so now here I am hanging out. Everything's cool. And all of a sudden, my buddy comes like, your mom's on the phone, dude. And I'm like, oh, that's probably pretty serious. We should take that. Like, I'm like, she's like, you need to get home now. Code red. People know we grow cannabis. I'm like, oh my God, no, nothing like anything but that. Like,
did they know? Yeah, your mom. So she was just playing dumb. Your mom was cool. Okay.
Well, no, she wasn't playing dumb. She was serious. She wanted the plants. I really did have to move the plants.
Oh, okay.
She was giving me a heads up, like, hey, if this is going down, like,
That's nice. We should go in the backyard and just chop them.
Well, yeah. Remember, I told you my parents are Irish and Italian, so mom's getting 20% of everything that comes through.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey.
This is, once again, it's the 90s, dude. Like, come on, bro. I hate to admit this, but the best drugs in the high school, we had them, and we were hitting the teachers off in the hallway in front of the library on our way to study hall. Like, that's because that's just how it was in the 90s. Like, I mean, everything was just, and if you were in the suburbs, I mean, it was just absolutely insane. And I just kept with it, and I kept reading, because once I figured out what male and female plants were, and if you mix them, what happens, and if you don't mix them, what happens. And I was like, whoa, if you don't check pollen, you don't grow seeds. I was like, I wonder if other people know about this. You know, like, as a
It was really like that?
As a child, literally. I mean, at the time, you know, I was like, now I'm like 17, 18, 19, and I'm getting really good at growing, but like, I'm going, I mean, who wants to pick fucking seeds out of their weed? Like, nobody wants to deal with that shit. Like, you know, like, gotta get past this, right? And, you know, and then one of my buddies is just an old time grower, you know, and he's like, the only reason you got seeds is because your plants keep getting pollinated. He's like, if you don't pollinate your females, they won't grow seeds. And I was like, oh shit. All right. So I was growing some diesel, and my other buddy was growing Cinderella, and we grew them because they flipped in 45 days. So you could just bang. And this is in a basement, in a closet downstairs, like in New York, hidden walls, like elaborate shit. We just kept going, and we kept finding better strains and better cuts, and like meeting these guys, like now, meeting guys like Rick Campanella to get Sillerenda 99 seeds from specific breeders so that we could get them to flip fast.
And you were meeting these guys back when they were just,
and that was early 2000s. That was 20 some years ago. Easy. Well, I was also an international DJ and a worldwide producer. So
yeah.
Obviously, I fulfilled record contracts, and I went on tour, and I did all this different stuff.
You can't just throw that out there. When did that happen?
That was right. So growing all through the 90s and everything, okay? And then in the early 2000s, right in that flip.
Oh, yeah, it's taken off.
Everything started taking off music-wise. Yeah. And then I fulfilled the contracts. I cut everything down at around 2016, 17. And then I literally rolled out everything. So my buddy Joseph Smith contacted me, and he was like, hey, I got this radio show. It's In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio, and it was WGDR Goddard College in Vermont.
All right.
And we were the first FCC regulated cannabis talk show on the FM dial. And I laughed, at first, and the show blew up. I mean, blew up. We were syndicated. We were through Clear Channel. I had FCC license. And we interviewed everybody in the cannabis industry. And then COVID happened, and everything shut down.
Yeah. COVID ruined it.
Everything shut down. The radio station, the colleges, everything. Like, we couldn't even get to the transmitter and then of course we started to go online. Okay, we had a huge push at first online, and then that kind of just died down because there was no way that we could compete with the morning drive time. I mean, we are literally on at 8 from 8:30 till 9:30 every Monday right after NPR while you're driving your car to work. Everybody was listening to In the Weeds. It was insane. And when that happened, that's when I got a hold of Bubba.
Okay.
And I was like, Bubba, I need a job.
Yeah.
And he was like, you can come work for me, and that's what really started to make a super hard push for Bubba Kush brand.
Okay.
And we really, and then that's what led me to go back into genetics, and go back, because what I found was when we really started getting serious in business, corporations were basically taking everything from us.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one thing that we had that they didn't, and it was the strains. It got to a point where it was so grossly rude that we were literally looking at corporates going, dude, you don't even have any weed. We have all the weed. How can you be a cannabis company if you don't have any weed? We'll just sell our plants elsewhere. We don't have to give them to you. We control all the genetics. You guys aren't, in control of anything. And they would just look at us like, yeah, okay. And then all of a sudden, you know, harvest time would come, and all of a sudden it was a completely different story. We were everybody's best friends because we had what everybody wanted. And it's just absolutely horrible because that's just how it is in that industry, which is one of the reasons why I pulled genetics back again and literally went into TCK. I mean, I love Bubba Kush brand and its legacy and everything. And I've got amazing heirloom genetics and still breeding in the whole 9 yards, you know, and really solidly for the last real 6 years. And I'm really kind of happy that I made that decision because I'm watching what's happening in corporate cannabis right now. I mean, it's definitely something that we should talk about because, you know, right now, Cookies and Burner are being indicted on almost $800 million in money laundering charges. 13 different CEOs of every major cannabis company have had to resign. I mean,
Burner's bought stuff before. Do you think he's going to come out of this one?
No, there's no way. I literally saw the article hit this morning. I saw it in LinkedIn, and
I didn't see it. I was driving this morning.
Oh, no. And it was literally, was it Canopy or Ianthus? And it says Canopy's major CEO has to resign because of, the corporate cannabis world is about to, I mean, MedMen is so in the shit right now. It's not even funny.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's bad. It's really bad.
And they're everywhere. What's going on over there? They're huge in Florida.
They've lost so much money. I mean, but you know, that's what happens when the CEO of your company gets involved in spending 3/4 of your bankroll on personal items before your company gets off the ground.
Nah. What's the problem with cannabis companies, man? You see a lot come and go. You hear when one goes really fast or whenever it seems like one goes downhill, it always seems like it's the worst that's brought out of these people up at the top. Why is it so prevalent in such a young industry? Because this industry is in its infancy compared to anything else that's going on, makes so much money, and there have been problems. And we've, like you said, we should talk about it in corporate cannabis with a lot of these CEOs or owners or faces of them just being, well, for a better term, corrupt.
I mean, you just said it. The biggest problem in corporate cannabis, and why in the end I'm going to squash everybody into oblivion, just in boutique, is greed. I don't grow cannabis for money. I never have. I really never will. I mean, I may sell strains, you know, to private people or different, you know, entities and whatnot, but at the end of the day, I'm really not out there going, man, I got to make this Bubba Walters, and I got to have Bubba literally back this. We need to go into this campaign. I got 100,000 square foot grow ready to go, and we're popping 4 moms and 30-gallon pots. We're going to lay down this 100,000 square foot canopy, and then I'm going to pull down 10% of this, you know, $250 million purse of the, no. You know, I've heard it all before. I've seen it. I've seen it all. You know, these 86,000 gallons of water through 2,000 pound hydroponic tables. These girls are pushing 2.7 million watts of lights. I mean, insane. I did a consultancy for Buddha. They owned 800,000 square foot facilities.
That is so much. Where does that money come?
You know, like Colorado.
Jeez.
Initially, and that was here in Arizona. That was long. This was probably 8-9 years ago.
Okay, so these grows, you and I both know, I mean, the stuff that it takes to start up in cannabis, specifically here where we're sitting doing this interview here in Arizona, the most expensive entry price point into cannabis. Are these people that are buying in? Is that the problem? Is because they're not like people like yourself most of the time?
The people with the money don't know anything about cannabis, and the people that know everything about cannabis don't have any money. and they don't care.
Yeah.
That's the even worse part.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, the, what do you call it? The, I watch it all the time. It's Siri Shorzy. Okay.
Yeah.
and they make a great point. And he goes, they don't hate to win. And no. And he goes, no, they don't hate to lose. And there's a lot of truth to that. Okay. It's the same thing for corporate cannabis growing for greed, right? They're just doing it for the money. I mean, at the end of the day, if they can buy 18,000 auto flowers and pop them in the ground, and they can pull that bud out and they can sell it for a premium, and the public's going to buy it because they're not educated. They don't know any different. They don't know what it should really look like, what it should really taste like. I mean, it's funny, but so just recently is a perfect point, okay? And everybody that hears this is going to think this is absolutely ridiculous. But I really feel that there's a certain stature, if you will, to this. And selling baller jars of the wax that we're going to smoke tonight for almost $600. I can't keep them in stock. I'm selling pounds for $6,000. I'm selling ounces in between $350 to $500 all day. And the reason why is because there is a demand for craft cannabis. There's a huge demand for it. And people will pay a premium for cannabis that is literally grown in living soil, that's not sifted, you know, that literally is what it is. Because I guarantee you, when I hand you that ounce, you know, and they look at it and they just, I literally, everybody says one of two of the same things. Did you cover this in cocaine? Or I've never even, I didn't know crystal grows like that on a leaf. Like, that's the other one that makes me laugh.
That is sad, man. That is so sad. But I believe so many people, there's so many new cannabis users, and their only experience is what you get in dispensaries. People like you and me, we don't go to dispensaries unless it's something that we know. There's very few brands that I, as far as flower, that I enjoy. Haven't found one out in Nevada yet. I miss back in Colorado. There was one brand I really liked called 710 Labs. But I prefer boutique cannabis. I don't mind having to pay a premium dollar. It's always whenever I smoke with some friends or something, and they bring out something that they got from the dispensary, and then they look at the stuff that I bring out, and they're just like, holy fuck, where did you get that? It's like, well, it pays to know somebody that actually cares about what they're doing.
Well, I think that's a huge part of it too. A lot of people tell me that I'm full of shit, but I definitely think it matters that I am the person physically not only creating said strains and curating said strains, but literally growing said strains, okay? A good example of that. You make cannabis in a contract, okay? And now you drop said cannabis off for the proprietor. And then the proprietor looks at you and says, well, that's great, and we're going to grow this out, and thank you very much. But, that 10 pounds that you just produced privately, we want that. And you're just looking at him going, why? What? You're to grow 10,000 square foot. Why? What do you want my weed for? And they're like, well, about that. See, even though these genetics are amazing and we're willing to pay you a couple $100,000 for them, that's not a problem, okay? We're not going to be able to replicate that same quality. We can't get that, tight structure, the in-house CO2 when it's solid. Okay. Just and that's we're going to get a little more chatty. That's the Bubra right there. That's,
the Dab X.
Oh yeah.
I never hit the Dab X before.
It's an experience. That is an amazing piece of machinery right there. And the I'm glad we kind of waited in a second because you're going to hit that and be like, I don't want to smoke the flower anymore.
Oh my God. Oh, that is.
Oh, yeah. I make that by hand, man. Right here in Phoenix, Arizona. And I do not wash that. If you can believe it or not, I literally do not wash that first. I literally am. I have a method of very, very simple.
Holy crap. That has so much terps, it's making my nose tingle.
Yeah.
Like, that's. I haven't had that off of a dab. I have some Stizzy live butter, whatever it is over there. Fuck that. That, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's
The Bubra. Is that from, what did you make that concentrate? Is that from like flour? Do you like is that extract or is that press?
So I can't really get
that's fine.
into the whole process, but I will definitely share with you a decent portion of it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I grow the cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
I cut down the cannabis.
Mm-hmm.
I leave cannabis for a certain amount of period in certain setting, certain humidity, certain temperature.
For the cure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at that point, there's like a perfect point, and I've gotten really, really good at hitting it every time. Okay.
Okay.
And you just get it, and you trim it, and then you just literally go. Is it like you wait? It's like a certain window, and it's like 45 to say like 55%. Okay.
Okay.
And if you got the right press, and the right temperature, and the right bags, and the right paper, and the right, dude, you can pull some ridiculous numbers.
So is that, if you're willing to share, is that a flower rosin or is that like a
Oh no, this is
rosin?
there is no. This is all straight nug run.
Then I'm gonna say this as a compliment. That is the best fucking nug run rosin I've ever had.
Oh, bro, we're just getting started.
That was fire. There was, because most nug run that I've experienced, that's why most of the time I don't like rosin, is it has a very, just there's a burnt popcorny aftertaste that I don't like. And that's, but off of a dry sift or an ice water hash rosin, that doesn't have that normally. But that's what I would compare that to. And that was in a very high grade. That was so good.
I am literally creating the exact same thing in this process. Okay. And I believe I will tell you guys this. I'll just
something nug that much,
dude. I'm gonna give you one of my secrets. Here's one of the biggest secrets I can give you guys. If you want to create the best oil you possibly can, okay, guys, gotta start doing what's called cold pressing. Okay, cold pressing. It's very difficult because you got to have the right machine to do it with like the right amount of tonnage, like
minimum, like a hydraulic multi-ton.
Yeah, it's got to be like a minimum 3 to 5 ton.
Holy crap!
And cold press it, and it's got to be. I mean, I feel like this is an egregious statement because a lot of people that make dabs will understand why I'm saying this. I've heard guys say 167. I think that's a bunch of bullshit. I'm just gonna come right out and say that. I've heard 170s, like 176, maybe in a 90U. I'm usually right like 178 to 181. It fluctuates. You know, it tries to. Because it's the setting's 180. Okay. But it really tries to fluctuate. And I know that sometimes it, doesn't, it's not the most consistent. Right. But I'm telling you, I got it nailed, man.
No, that was so good.
And that's
I just can't get over the nose feel because like I've had that nose feel was like off of I don't know. It's been a while. I've gotten that off of carts normally, but that off of just a straight nug run, rosin dab. I'm feeling great, by the way. So relaxed. This is medicinal cannabis.
The opinions expressed on this CannabisRadio.com program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of CannabisRadio.com. Any rebroadcast, republication, or retransmission of this program without proper consent is prohibited.